And I hope you've had a very enjoyable lunch and are all set for the second half of today's Finance for Impact Summit. My name is Chris Hayward, and I'm the Policy Chairman at the City of London Corporation. And over the next 5 years, I'll be working as the de facto political leader of the City Corporation. Now, as the Lord Mayor mentioned in his remarks this morning, on behalf of the City Corporation and our partners at the Impact Investing Institute and KPMG, it is a very real pleasure to welcome all of you today to our Square Mile. And this afternoon, we have some excellent sessions for you, including Minister Nigel Huddleston, a panel on policy and regulation for scaling finance for impact, and a Finance for Impact best practice session amongst others. So lots hopefully to look forward to. But before we come to these, I'd like just a few minutes of your time to touch, if I may, on policy and regulation for scaling impact finance before I hand over to Minister Nigel Huddleston. Now, this morning we've heard from the Lord Mayor about the importance of today, the need for financial services to align themselves with positive change, the need to elevate social outcomes, the S alongside the E in ESG, and the need to pursue positive and measurable social outcomes. And I'm sure we are all in this room in agreement with these goals. So I would like to briefly address 3 fundamental questions to help our discussions in making this change happen. Firstly, the what question. What do we, in this room and beyond, need to do in order to elevate social outcomes to equal status alongside their environmental cousins? The starting point for me is learning from our experience in developing the global coalition of green finance that coalesced at COP26. Last year's meeting in Glasgow undoubtedly showcased some of the very best of the financial services industry to the world. With the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, GFANZ, we have created a coalition that, as of COP26, represented balance sheets of more than $130 trillion aimed towards the climate fight. We demonstrated that environmentalism can lie at the heart of financial services, and that financial services can lie at the heart of environmentalism. But, ladies and gentlemen, we should not forget that GFANZ is really the tip of the iceberg, the product of years of work, much of which was undertaken without the guarantee of success. Today, we find ourselves at a similar inflection point to the early sustainable finance movement, uncertain of what the future holds. But just as we previously learnt by doing, so too we must begin action on social outcomes now. It is only by moving forward that we can overcome obstacles such as impact washing. Like its greenwashing counterpart, impact washing undermines the entire ESG system if people choose headlines over hard work and shortcuts over substance. The issue is compounded by the lack of a coherent response. A 2021 Impact Task Force report found that the number of ESG and impact standards has nearly doubled in the last 5 years. Without consensus and a sharing of methods, institutions, individuals, and investors will lack the trust to know where positive impact can and cannot be made. This is supported by a 2020 Global Impact Investing Network survey, which found that the sophistication of impact measurement management practice was the second largest significant challenge for the impact investing market. Which brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to the second of the 3 questions I mentioned earlier, the how question. How will we elevate social impact alongside environmental? One vital consideration should be the pursuit of international consensus around a framework for impact finance. We know that investment markets are global in nature. Indeed, many, if not all, of the firms here today in this room are global. And so too must be our approach to scaling these markets. By measuring and assessing the performance of investments and companies globally in an increasingly comparable and coherent manner, we can help overcome the often perceived nebulous nature of social impact finance compared to green finance. It would also address the more fundamental question of what constitutes impact for a company's activities or its investments. Now, there may be some who see social impact frameworks as red tape or obstacles to progress. And whilst I applaud the enthusiasm to immediately accelerate impact finance, developing disclosures on the S in ESG will ease the confusion around impact washing. This will be better for investors and business decision makers as they can make more informed decisions. It will be better for institutions as those committed to this agenda will more easily stand out from the crowd. And it will be better for the industry as it will improve its reputation for positive change. Now, the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are making progress, as will be discussed later, with a fantastic panel on policy, standards and regulation. And we want to be part of setting the direction of travel. Now, as part of today's summit, KPMG have launched a set of recommendations for finance for impact to scale, which is informed by the financial services industry and calls for progress in tangible ways. The Just Transition Finance Challenge, announced by the Impact Investing Institute, will unveil a common set of criteria firms can adhere to in order to embed social considerations into their investment practices. These actions show that we have the tools and the momentum to develop a rigorous, responsible, and reliable overarching framework for impact finance. It will build on the excellent work developing sustainable finance regulations, meaning that we are not starting completely anew, but can learn from the past to ensure we have more accurate ESG ratings in the future. And so to my third and final question, why? Why is it important that we here today develop the tools, the policy and the regulations needed to scale impact finance? As discussed at COP26, the Net Zero Delivery Summit held here back in May by our Lord Mayor, and as I'm sure COP27 will reiterate, the need to tackle climate change is clear, necessary and urgent. Across the generations, there is broad consensus on this issue. Now, a 2021 study by King's College London found that 74% of baby boomers and 70% of millennials agree that environmental issues are big enough to justify significant changes to people's lifestyles. A statistic supported by a 2017 Morgan Stanley Institute for Sustainable Investing study, which found that millennials are twice as likely as the overall investor population to invest in companies targeting social or environmental goals. In short, younger people are far more likely to put their money where their mouth is on sustainable investing. And given that younger people are the next generation of investors, finance for impact is clear business sense. And finally, there is a great opportunity here. Other jurisdictions, including the EU, have started to consider social impact frameworks that would enable the market to scale. There seems an opportunity here for the United Kingdom to provide impetus, direction, and clarity to a fledgling finance for impact ecosystem and allow it to take root here. Such a move would be hugely beneficial to London and the United Kingdom as a global financial centre. boosting the financial and professional services sector that already accounts in our country for 2.3 million people, 2/3 of whom are actually outside this capital of London. So finally, let me reiterate to you, we need to build on the environmental and elevate the social in finance for impact. We need to develop the necessary frameworks that encourage transparency and discourage impact washing. And we need to devote our energy to this work urgently for the sake of our people, our place in the global finance order, and our planet. Thank you.